Yo, check this story out. Up front, this ain't for the faint of heart. It's some sick shit. And honestly, if you are or were a victim of sexual assault, I would advise you skip this one. I won't disclose identifying details such as names, locations, and dates to protect my people who shared the story with me. Some powers at work are trying to cover this up, and there's no need to tip them off where to look first to tie up loose ends. Since I know the truth, I feel it's my duty to get the real story out there. It's some wild shit, but within every terrible situation, there's a lesson to be learned. Well, shit, let's get into it. I listened to Bill Mason's Urban Crimes podcast on Spotify a few weeks ago, and he covered a story about a drug bust in an abandoned house on Street in the county of outside the military base. These details immediately pulled me in because I am from the area and worked on that base before. It is easier if I just share some of the segments with you from the podcast. One moment. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Urban Crimes Podcast. I'm Bill Mason, and tonight I would like to cover a story that was shared with me. Last Tuesday, NCIS and the local police stormed and raided an abandoned house in the county. Local law enforcement claims that there was a drug ring in which DoD civilians and active duty military members from the base were buying narcotics. Wrong. First of all, it wasn't a drug ring. It was one guy sitting in an abandoned house. No one was buying drugs, and as a matter of fact, no one was buying shit. They were being extorted. This man will pose as a sexy woman, redhead, blonde, brunette, ebony, etc. on one of those dating sites and target the younger and more naive service members on the website to befriend them. He would build rapport with them for weeks and then disclose to them that, quotations, she was an escort. For the ones who didn't shy away, he would go on to promise them a good time. He changed profiles constantly, so it was difficult for anyone to connect the dots initially. So, he would then lure these guys into this abandoned house, and to their horrid surprise, their sexy 5'2" Coca-Cola shaped bottle seductress would be a 6'6", 275-pound gorilla. Just think of the mountain from Game of Thrones. The worst catfish in fucking history. He would then confront them all with all the saved transcripts of their conversations and remind them that the solicitation of prostitution was illegal and against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I'll cover what that is in a little bit. Again, he would show them all of the transcripts in which he blatantly told them that she, quotation marks, was a prostitute and that they acknowledged this but still were willing to pay for her service. What do you think happened next? Extortion, right? Well, don't think too fucking hard. I've got you covered. Well, yes, the standard extortion playbook did occur, but it gets worse. Not only did he take their money, he made them suck his dick. Yeah, you fucking heard me right. He made them suck his dick and pay him for it. Like, what the fuck? What sort of sick, emotionally damaging, diabolical gimmick was this? Yo, let's move on. There's more to cover. To put all of this into perspective, I'm pretty sure you want to know how this came about and why it occurred for as long as it did. Okay, so I want to give you my friend's personal account of what happened to him. I'll also try to give some context to military life and the thought process of some of the folks involved in the story. So, a friend of mine just got separated from the military for Article 134, which is for pandering and prostitution under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Article 134 states verbatim, the act of paying for or receiving pay for sexual intercourse is illegal under Article 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Similarly, the act of facilitating, arranging, or advertising prostitution, known as pandering, is also illegal. Yes, In the military, we have laws. If you break them, you could be thrown out or in some cases, tried and serve time. Most of these laws stem from laws in the civilian sphere. For example, the solicitation of prostitution is an illegal offense in which an individual pays or agrees to pay for a sexual act. It is considered a crime because the law believes it encourages the objectification of a person. But hey, wait. Do not feel bad for my friend. He wears it like a badge of honor. And shit, in my eyes, he's a fucking hero. He shared with me this so I can get the word out and hopefully prevent sick shit like this from happening again. I'll explain what I mean briefly, but let me give you some context first. I wanted to read what my friend disclosed to me, so I wrote it down verbatim to ensure the accuracy of his account. Hold on. He says, everyone has their reasons for why they decide to enlist in the military. For some, it is honor, patriotism, or a conquest for self-identity. Some people may come from a lineage of veterans who choose to uphold that family legacy. Some even join for practical benefits or to build a career and develop a new skill set. Everyone has their different reasons and what that means to them. With that being said, the military isn't no walk in the park. There are rules and guidelines you must adhere to, and there's no sympathy for dragging behind. After all, our nation's defenders are being groomed for potential combat and war. I joined the Navy, however, for the money. I must highlight my intentions to join because it would all make sense later. I needed to pay off some massive debt I accumulated in college, taking out loans to cover tuition and boarding. Sad to say, I wasted 2 years of my life with no degree to show for it. On top of that, I was still a virgin. Wow, okay. On top of that, I was still a virgin. I didn't even get to indulge in that dormitory party lifestyle all of these college movies promise. I was what you would call an incel. I was never good at talking to girls, and no one going out of their way to talk to me. Anyway, it was my first year in the Navy, and I was working as an undesignated airman in a squadron on an airbase in the middle of nowhere. The pilots were doing demolition drills out there, so I guess that's why there was nothing around the base except for a small town 50 miles out. The town has Sonics and a few local bars, but I don't know how people live there. Needless to say, there was no entertainment or a proper way to blow off some steam. Another detail to add, the ratio of women to men in the military is roughly about 1 to 10. So trying to find a gal you can link up with or go steady with on base isn't a viable option. All of the guys on base are competing for the same girls, and that's not even to factor in that some girls aren't interested in guys. So, many of the guys started using dating apps to try and connect with girls in the nearest town. They would chat with them and eventually, on weekends, make that 50-mile trip to meet up. This was a common thing with most of the guys on base. It was near the second thing newcomers were briefed on when checking into the command. I had a buddy I used to hang out with all the time. He was a roommate in the barracks. We were into the same hobbies, mostly gaming and watching anime. A few weeks ago, my friend got a match on one of those dating websites with a beautiful girl named Susie. She was close to us in age and showed strong interest in him, and the photos on her profile were hot. He told me that he was going to meet Susie that upcoming Saturday, and he seemed excited, as if he knew he was going to get laid. I was a little jealous at the time. I had zero interactions with any women around, let alone to have the opportunity to get lucky. The next day I asked him how it went. He was vague and avoidant for the whole day. He said it went alright, but didn't give any details. There was a stark contrast in his demeanor from when he was heading out to meet Susie to when he returned. I just figured he was lying, and he probably got flaked on. Guys on the base always complained about the high flake rate when dating online. Weeks passed, and out of the blue, my friend took his own life. Wow. He overdosed on painkillers on a Wednesday evening. There was no note or anything. There was speculation that maybe he was stressed out from work, but I didn't get a whiff. It was truly heartbreaking, but now I know what probably happened. After some months, I finally caved and decided to try this online dating thing. Now that my buddy was gone, I felt more socially isolated and was starting to become depressed. I figured that most of my anxiety when talking to women could be subsided if the interaction was initiated from behind a computer screen.
It wasn't long before I got matched with a cute redhead named Samantha. She was very responsive to my texts, and it almost became a routine for a few weeks chatting with her. One day she threw me for a loop. She revealed to me that she was a sex worker and apologized for misleading me. I was initially nervous, but after some consideration, I saw this as my opportunity to finally get laid and appreciated that we could cut to the chase. I hesitantly agreed, and she asked me again if I was sure I wanted to hook up, and I doubled down. I was nervous, but my heart was racing with excitement. I even started to fantasize about it. We eventually arranged to meet at her place in town on a Saturday. A few days before, I checked the watch bill to ensure I didn't have any duty that weekend and made arrangements to borrow a car from one of the guys in my squadron. The countdown to Saturday was excruciating, but eventually, Saturday came, and I was taking the 50-mile ride into town. When I arrived at the address Samantha gave me, I was confused. It was an abandoned house. It was covered with overgrown grass and had cracks in the windows. I even double-checked the address on my phone to make sure, but I guess if you are a hooker in a town like this location was fitting to do your business. As I approached the house, I saw a dark figure move in the house through the window. I paused for a second. Something in my brain registered that was not the outline of Samantha. I received a message on my phone from Samantha telling me to head in and that the door was open. Foolishly, I entered, and the house was empty, with a single couch along the left side of the room. I heard shuffling in a room that looked like it may have been a kitchen at some point and quietly called out to Samantha. Holy shit. What came out of that room was a behemoth of a man. He looked like an ex-convict. He walked into my area slowly and called me by my name. He then calmly told me that he was posing as Samantha and that he knew solicitation of prostitution was against military rules and with punitive repercussions that could get me kicked out. He told me I needed to pay him to keep this a secret and told me to give him a favor in good faith while pointing to his groin. I didn't waste a second and hauled ass to my car. He began chasing behind me, but in no time, I was in the car with the doors locked and starting the ignition. As he ran to the car, he yelled my name again and threatened to tell my command about what I was doing. Who gives a fuck, I thought. As I was pulling away, his fist crashed through my rear passenger's window, and as I drove, all I could think about was my buddy. Is that what happened to him? I didn't need to talk with that freak to get the gist of the situation. It was a catfish with a hint of extortion. He said he would tell my command, but I didn't give a fuck. I joined the Navy to clear some debt, and I was having a sucky time anyway. As soon as Monday rolled around, I told our NCIS rep on base, and eventually my command found out. I don't know if NCIS looked into the matter, but I faced my own troubles. Unfortunately, my command wasn't very understanding of my situation. They were happy I wasn't hurt, but still had to reprimand me for my actions. According to them, it would have never happened if I hadn't put myself in this situation. Well, guys, I just finished reading my buddy's note, which was pretty crazy, but it gives us a lot of insight into that situation and what was going on. But, well, I'm glad my buddy spoke up because he opened up a can of worms. And guess what, guys? The rabbit hole gets fucking deeper. Let's hear another segment from Bill Mason's podcast.
The drug ring was led by an escaped convict from the Wichita prison. He was setting up shop in an abandoned house on the outskirts of
Wrong again. The man wasn't some escapee. He was an FBI informant. And how do I know that? You might ask. My friend who got separated reported his encounter with this mysterious man to NCIS. Well, let's just say I know one of the special agents that worked the case. When they raided the house, they found the laptop and were able to pull a bunch of information off of it that they had to piece together. Another loose end that the FBI doesn't know about. So like I said, our mystery man is an FBI informant. His name is Robert DeLuca. He has ties to the Morelli family, a crime organization based out of He was their muscle back in the day. I don't know why he fell out with the Morellis, but my buddy said whatever it was caused him to flip on everyone. Maybe it was his sexually predatory behavior or his impulsive nature. But anyway, he single-handedly took down one of the most prominent mafias in County's history. He ratted on the entire family and gave the feds a play-by-play of their inner workings. But that's not why I'm putting a spotlight on this. I want to note that this guy was an FBI informant in some sort of witness protection program. And it looks like someone in the feds dropped the ball and forgot about him. Usually witnesses who testify in high-profile trials are placed under witness protection with a new identity. But it appears that after a few years after the Morelli family trial, the feds just left him to his new life. Did they forget that he wasn't a regular witness? That he was a compulsive, murderous maniac? However, now the FBI is sparing no expenses trying to cover their fuck up. They don't want anyone to know that the informant went rogue off the reservation. They are trying to remove this guy from this incident and block local law enforcement from finding out who he is and apprehending him. It appears they even reached out to several news and media outlets to get a jump on the narrative of the incident. That's probably how Bill Mason got a hold of this story. What a fucking shame. Really. Talk about not looking out for your fellow Americans and servicemen at that. Crazy enough, man. My buddy told me that NCIS pulled more off that laptop than just some details about the informant. It wasn't just junior sailors from the base he got. Apparently, he was extorting senior military officers and other notable government officials in the area. My friend wouldn't disclose any further details than that, and rightfully so, man. I wouldn't want to know that anyway. One last bit. As you might have guessed, when NCIS and the local police raided the house, they didn't find Robert DeLuca there. I doubt the FBI got a hold of him because, number one, they forgot about him, and number two, the situation with my buddy who shared this story spiraled way too quickly. DeLuca must have known shit was going south, and after that he bounced. Number three, or third of all, some friends told me that they heard some plainclothes officers knocking on doors and asking about our mystery man. Jeez, I won't rest easy at night knowing that this lunatic is still out there on the loose. No matter how much pressure we get from up top, we will continue to work on this case. This is a disservice and a crime against the American people. That's why it's important that I get this story out. They won't bury it on my watch. Keep your head on a swivel. And watch your six.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.
This concludes our story. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.